that working?
Yes.
Okay, hey, welcome everyone. It's really great to see you all. I don't know about you, when I drove in, I thought that the county fair was going on. I was looking for the roller coaster, but we're here for a little different purpose tonight. My name is Dave Klein. I serve as the Board of Supervisors, and together with my colleague Carol Groom, we are co-chairing this advisory committee, and very, very happy to have you join us. San Mateo County is renowned for its collaboration, and maybe many of you were at the Big Lift celebration yesterday, which was an incredible example of collaboration. And this effort tonight is another place where San Mateo County can use its track record, its history, and its skills in collaboration to make a big difference, and to do something that will make our environment cleaner, reduce our carbon emissions, and lead to many positive innovations in the way we deal with energy efficiency, deal with sustainability. So we've accomplished a lot over the last 6 months since we kicked off this effort, and we'll briefly review that later in the program. But tonight is a real pivotal moment because we have representatives from all 20 cities in the county and from 15 different stakeholder groups and, of course, members of the public. And we need your input as we take the next step and think about the specifics of how we might roll out a community choice energy program in our county. We need your input, and then we need you to be able to bring back to your cities and to your constituent groups what you learned here. There's a lot to think through. There's a lot of issues that we'll want to wrestle with. So we, again, can't thank you enough for your participation. Let me just start by introducing a few people, and then we'll maybe go around the room and quickly introduce each other. So from the county, we've assembled a great team internally that's been working hard on the community choice energy effort to date. So we'll just read their names. They could raise their hand. We have Ricky Back, who's a legislative aide with Supervisor Groom. He's outside directing people in. David Bruno from my office in the back. Jim Engermeyer, who is the director of our Office of Sustainability. Gordon Tom from the Office of Sustainability. And Kirsten Pringle, again, Office of Sustainability. And this is a tremendous job to date. There's like 20, 25 different jurisdictions around the state that are looking at community choice energy. And we've kind of moved most crisply and most efficiently of all these different jurisdictions. And it's really due to the work of this team, which has been supplemented and greatly assisted by some consultants we've retained. Sean Marshall from Lean Energy, Seth LaBrouche from Carbonomics, and we have Ms. Ray Quigley here with our design team. We'll be talking about our name and our website later in the program. And then too, we've retained a technical firm. They're not with us tonight, the Pacific Energy Advisors, John Delasey and Kirby Dussel. So we have, again, collected a fantastic a team to help this advisory committee get all the information it needs to weigh in on the direction we need to take in San Mateo County. So let's maybe take a quick second. Everyone can just quickly introduce themselves and their city or constituency group. If you want to start at the end with Mike.
Susie Ray with the League of Women Voters.
Good evening, Julianne Wood, Assistant City Manager for Daly City.
Amanda Lorenzen, the City Manager's Office in Foster City.
Ian Dane, Councilmember Redmond City.
Jeff House, Mayor.
Toll Valley.
Today, Councilman, South San Francisco.
Landis Marla, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 1245.
Cameron Johnson, San Carlos City Council.
Rick DeGolia, Mayor of Appleton.
Slater Central District Association.
Michael Clausen, San Mateo Community Choice.
Charles Stone, Council Member Belmont.
Joe Bogle, San Mateo City Council, and I also have with me today Matt Bronson, our Assistant City Manager.
Michelle Bear, City of East Palo Alto Environmental Programs.
Larry Moody, Council Member, City of East Palo Alto.
James Gomez, Business Manager, San Mateo Building Trades.
Marina Fraser, Mayor, Half Moon Bay.
Larry May, Mayor of Hillsborough.
Sue Chow from the Sierra Club.
Mike McCord, Citizens Environmental Council of Burlingame.
Heather Abrams, City of Menlo Park Environmental Programs.
Elisa McAvoy, School Board Trustee representing the San Mateo County School Boards Association.
Diane Bailey with Menlo Spark, a nonprofit working to make Menlo Park climate neutral.
Sigal Michael, Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Burlingame.
Stacy Palmer, the Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County.
Kristen Schwind with the Pacifica Climate Committee.
Okay, thank you. Fantastic. So as you can see, I think we have all the people we need to have some great discussions in the months ahead. So let me turn the mic over to my colleague, Supervisor Groom, to just talk a little bit about, what CCEs are about and our objectives.
Thanks. And thank you all. CCE is community and also known as community choice energy. Allows communities to pool their electricity demand in order to purchase and potentially develop power on behalf of local residents, businesses, and municipal facilities. The big advantage to CCEs in California is that it allows communities to purchase electricity with a much higher renewable content. So we wanted to bring this to San Mateo County because it meets our environmental goals, reduces greenhouse emissions from energy production, provides good customer choice, gives communities the empowerment. They are accountable to the communities they serve. All surplus funds can be used for local renewable energy projects and specialized energy efficiency programs. We began exploring this in the fall of last year, and in February, the Board of Supervisors allocated funds to conduct the further research on CCEs. So we've asked you to all join us, one representative from every city, and then a number of people that represent special kind of things. We invited you to bring the information back to your cities and your organizations and advise the County Board of Supervisors on whether or not we should form a CCE, and to provide feedback from all the things that we want to talk about. But we really want you to tell us whether this is the right thing to do, and how we should proceed. And so again, we thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Carol. So we are actually right on time for our next item. I'd like to introduce Catherine Miola from our County Council's office. And Catherine will spend a few minutes talking about the nature of the advisory committee and some of the ground rules for our discussion. So Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Is everyone hear me? No. Okay. How about I just speak up? All right. Can everyone hear me now? Okay, good. All right, I'm the Chief Deputy in the County Council's office. I'm actually celebrating my 20 years with the county next week. I started when I was 12, so don't worry about that. But I just wanted to talk about the public participation in the advisory committee. So, as you know, most of you are all familiar with the Brown Act and familiar with Brown Act bodies. Most of you are familiar with the Brown Act and the Brown Act bodies. This is not a Brown Act body because it's an ad hoc advisory committee email list that you guys already know about. Most of you are already on it. And we're going to have, during our public meetings, speaker cards, time limits for public comment, and then comment period before any actions are taken. So we wanted to adhere to the intent of the Brown Act while still not necessarily following every aspect of the Brown Act, because this is not a Brown Act body, it's an ad hoc advisory committee. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Catherine. So that brings us to public comment. We do want to always have time at our meetings, and we'll do this at the meetings as is typical, but take any comments from members of the public. So I think is there anyone who would like to share any comments? There'll be opportunities elsewhere in the agenda to speak, of course, on items we have listed here, but if there's any general comments, we can take those. No, I think, is there anything? No, I get the sun right in my eye. Yeah, okay. Well, seeing none, let's move on to the committee purpose, administration, and guiding principles. And Jim Aguilar.
Sorry about the mics. But anyways, so in your binders, there is a document in here referred to as our CCE Advisory Committee Operating Guidelines. And so I'm just going to kind of hit on some high points relative to kind of the way we're looking at operating the group. And the best way that I can kind of compare this to is similar to prior to this position, I was the director for the Planning and Building Department for the County of San Mateo. And so I had to deal with the Planning Commission. And I kind of look at it in the same light as that. I am staff to what you need. And I have staff that will help us together working towards this end understanding of CCE. So that's kind of my overall approach to this. So the first item here is relative to our meeting times. So we're looking to have and hold this type of forum every month on the fourth Thursday of the month from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And currently we're looking at holding it here in this particular location, but we are considering moving it around some, but we'll be discussing that in a little bit greater detail later on. The main purpose would be we'll see what we can do about that. So looking at the kind of the overall purpose of this committee, really this is a monthly forum for you to really kind of learn and provide feedback and input on the CCE development here in San Mateo County. So it also gives the public an opportunity too to come in and understand what we're all thinking about in regards to this. This, as Kathy had mentioned, an ad hoc committee, and looking at the purpose of providing input and direction for this particular development. So the role of the county and our staff here is that we're the lead sponsor. So the county itself has put up the financial aspect, the staffing associated with our department, our office, and then as well as the consulting services that we have on pension and under contract right now with 3 different consultants that are helping us all in this endeavor. And then once again, I just want to kind of acknowledge Kirsten. She's around. Kirsten sitting in front, and then Gordon from our office, and then Kathy Miola from County Council's office, making up our main team here internally. So there's also, moving on here, there's 3 main roles of you as members of this particular committee. And his first is to represent the views of your constituency and your interests. The second is to serve as an information channel back to those constituents and colleagues in your communities. And any additional reports or information that you need, you can work with us, and we'd be happy to provide that information to you and your constituents. And then the third area is helping us identify issues of concern so we can do some research and identify what those are and find the right answers and right people to do that so that you fully can become educated in this endeavor. So we are looking at this as a public participation forum. So we're looking at all of our meetings are going to be open to the public. And then we're also giving the opportunity for the members of the public on the agenda items to speak to those through our co-chairs. And then we've also provided you a binder relative to our meeting materials. And then we're also in the process of building a website. You're going to hear a little bit more about that. And we'll be posting and putting everything on that as one single location for our efforts here. And then second to last item is relative to voting, and which we're looking at is this will not be following a parliamentary procedure nor requiring a formal voting process. So we'll be just looking, we'll let the co-chairs kind of look to the participation and your voting through their process. And then the last item that I did want to kind of let you know about is our media and press relations. We're going to one person that is David Rudo, who indicated that too on the document here, so that we have one point person for any kind of involvement. And so that concludes kind of an overview of our approach for this committee and guidelines.
Thanks, Jim. Is there any questions for Jim or about the outline of that he's presented? Seeing none, let's kind of more to the meat of things, and we'll move to a presentation on the CCE project plan goals and accomplishments today with Sean Marshall.
Good evening, everybody. I'm hopeful we are cruising through this agenda pretty quickly, so if it's okay with the chair, I want to go ahead and take some time to kind of move through this and really encourage questions, because part of our goal here in the next couple of meetings, before we get into the heart of the matter in terms of real program development, is to get you grounded in what this thing is, how energy works, how this would actually work, and really get into some of the nitty-gritty. So I want to just invite any question that you have, anytime. No question is done. I was sitting exactly in your seat 8 years ago, and it takes a while to learn this stuff. So I just want to acknowledge that. How many, show of hands, how many of you participated on last week's webinar before this meeting? A couple of the slides are going to be listed in, so just forgive me because we're going to catch them right. Do I need this? Okay. All right. I thought it would be wise, you have this in your binder, but I thought it would be wise to not read this slide because it is full of text, but instead to draw your attention to the draft goal statements, really as a way. Can I get that? All right.
No, your back should be on it, so.
Okay, I'll move that. Really as a way, I think, to just point out that what the county is looking to do with its county-wide program is something that has multiple facets, multiple programs within program, multiple choices for customers, different kinds of products, and over time really has three main goals, one of which is definitely focused on environmental goals and climate action, reduce the heck out of greenhouse gas reductions rapidly, which you can do by changing your power supply. But also really look at what are the demand reduction energy efficiency programs that can be done, and what are some of the innovative prototype partnerships that can manifest, like what we see right now in Grant County. They just entered into a new partnership with Tesla. So their CCE customers will have access to home battery storage on a preferred basis. This is a new opportunity that has just come up. The second goal, the value of this, is economic development and economics. So it's economics for the that is also quite scalable based on the size of your county and the potential load of all of your different cities. It's good for the consumer because we believe that in the foreseeable future, this will be saving customers quite a bit of money. That's part of what we will be looking at in the technical study that should be done later this summer. But the other economic values really go to new economic opportunities for local businesses, new clean tech options, not unlike the partnership with Tesla or something local. And then the third really is new power development in this community and the opportunity for local jobs creation. So there are a couple of different things that really get layered into a multifaceted program like San Mateo County is looking to design for the long term. I think that I have touched on all of these. These are in your packet. I'm going to move on, but if you have any questions about what any of this is, please feel free to interrupt me. Here we'll just review briefly the proposed structure of the county's program. It starts with just a basic understanding of the organizational structure. For most of you who are serving local government, well understand what a joint powers agency is. It is a common legal structure for interjurisdictional cooperation on a given initiative or business strategy. In this case, community choice energy. Very important. We went through this in Marin when we were first looking at it. It creates a legal firewall between the assets and liabilities of the program, the agency, and the assets and liabilities of the general fund. Thus, really solidly reducing risk to the cities. That also gets carried over in any contract language with vendors, so that none of your key vendors are able to go back to the city and in any way pierce that veil. And that is really a critical issue related to joint powers and the value of those agencies for cooperative efforts. Right now, for the two CCAs that exist in Marin and Sonoma, their administrative overhead, staffing, and all that kind of stuff is running between 4 and 6% for their administrative costs for salaries and all that kind of stuff. As I said before, this is a local yet scalable opportunity for you all because we do have significant population countywide in order to leverage up ratepayer revenues and match them up to other sources of funding for some pretty cool projects in your community. Quickly to review statutory and regulatory requirements. There really aren't as many as might think. There are a lot of moving parts to getting this program up and running. It's really interesting, believe it or not. You'll learn a lot in the process. But the first is that the load data must be authorized by local governments in order to participate in the program. And that's not just for the initial technical study, but ultimately you need the load data in order to design your programs, figure out what your rate scenarios are, know who your customer is and all of this and all that. So that really happens early. All of you authorized your load data for the technical study, and we want to say thanks for doing that because a complete study really makes a big difference to the whole picture of what's possible. Local governments must also pass an enabling ordinance. The language of that ordinance can be pretty basic. The devil is always in the details in terms of ultimately what the JPA operating rules and the bylaws will be that will very clearly define what the agency does versus what the contractors do and all of that. The ordinance itself is fairly boilerplate, but it is required to enable your customers to be, your citizens to be enrolled in the program. An implementation plan is required to be filed with the California Public Utilities Commission. The CPUC is the state agency that oversees the investor-owned utilities, in our case PG&E. The CPUC is required to certify them and make sure that all of our ducks are in a row and that we've done the right thing in terms of power procurement, long-term planning, and all the other requirements of that implementation plan. They have a 90-day window through which to review that and ultimately vote certify the plan. CPUC also oversees the utility service agreement. So because this program is a partnership with PG&E, The service agreement is a governing document that basically describes the relationship and roles and responsibilities between the JPA and the utility. So the CPC oversees that as well. The statute requires a minimum of 4 months of notification so that customers always have the choice to opt out of this program and stay with the full service of PG&E. I want to underline the word minimum because that is a statutory requirement. Best practice and what we are seeing in other parts of the marketplace is that customer engagement starts now. And in fact, now has done quite a lot so far. There's nothing about this program that should be a surprise to your customers. And we think that's really important for buy-in and excitement around the program. So start early is our message. Resource adequacy is something that says the CCA program must procure enough power to serve the needs of its customers. You have to have that certified with the PUC every year. There are requirements and different certifications that go with that. The state has a renewable portfolio standard. Sorry, this is like a lot of information here. But the renewable portfolio standard sets the minimum threshold for what load serving entities like utilities, like municipal utilities, like CCEs, what a minimum threshold for renewable power within their portfolio. Right now, that is, I think, at 23% for this year, but ultimately the RPS is 33% by 2020. The governor has a proposal to increase that to 50%, 50% by 2030 or 2040. And I don't know where that's going to go. Here's the really cool news. The CCEs that exist already are already way ahead of that California RPS benchmark and are well positioned to reach that 50% threshold pretty quickly. Each program, they're fully operational right now, has a 100% renewable product that is an optional voluntary opt-out product for customers. So the default product is slightly below that at 33 or 50%, and you always have the option, if you want to pay the electric, go to 100% clean power.
John,
Please.
ask a couple of quick questions. First, when can cities start being able to ordinance? When could the city start doing that? You said it before. If that happened,
It could. So it is one of the things that the county is going to be looking at when we contemplate all of the moving parts in phase 2, which we'll get to. That'll probably come out pretty early in as part of phase 2. We'll get the supervisors. It could be soon.
my other question was, every time I hear about this period where we send out,
Send out the 4 notices about their option to opt out. Who could be sending a notice during that period of time saying, no, you shouldn't opt out, that's a terrible idea, don't do it? And how many of those notices could be sent out? Who could send out a notice like that?
You mean in terms of encouraging people to stay with the CCA?
Yeah.
Or the CCEs, sorry. I would imagine that you might have advocacy groups.
Please use
who
the
might do
microphone.
that.
I can only get the
Sorry. I imagine that you might have advocacy organizations that would do that.
Have you seen that in other counties?
I mean, the advocates are getting way on the learning curve, coming up the learning curve, quite sophisticated about this.
And opt-outs are down at 10% or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Sonoma, the opt-out rate is now 10%.
Great.
It's very low. And Sonoma covers the entire county, and so they've got a retention rate of 10%. But to answer your question, the opt-out notices are sent by the CCA agency.
And Sean, just to come back to the question that Joe asked about time, I know later in the presentation, you're going to look at, you're going to show the groups kind of the schedule of moving things along. So Joe, we're going to address that in more detail later. Some other members have to get through before we get to that point. But that's where the rubber's going to be road. That's where the decision might be made. All right. Okay.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about governance and staffing. This question comes up a lot within this model. How do you do it? What's the deal? You do have flexibility. So what I'm going to report out to you is how it's been done so far. There are some policy decisions that will be made, I think, by the board in terms of how I'd like to structure it. So far, the governance has consisted of one elected official from each jurisdiction does provide local accountability. There are monthly meetings, usually in a central location. Month is always welcome. Rate setting happens there, financials happen there, all the contract decisions, it's all done in a public, open setting at these monthly board meetings. Importantly, there is a two-tier voting structure. Sometimes we get the question, well, what about my community? We're small potatoes compared to XYZ community over here. In Marin County, we have, interestingly enough, SCE. The smallest community, I think, is Belvedere, which I think is like 6,000 people, maybe less. And the largest is the city of Richmond, and now unincorporated Napa, which is pushing up into 75,000 people. And the way it works is that each representative has one vote for each issue. If there is an issue that is contentious and somebody wants to call the second tier, that has not happened at this point, but the second tier can be a vote, which is a weighted voting structure. So that is the only time on which size would matter. And as we've seen, both in Marin and Sonoma, over the course of 5 years in Marin, that's never been needed at this point. It's generally consensus-based governance. The board has oversight of all agency operations and staff. This is Eddie JPA, has oversight of all revenues and expenses. Takes control of power supply decisions. Rate setting is an important part of what you do in a public setting. And design of related energy programs such as what we discussed before. In terms of staffing, when we did it in Marin, we started with 2. It was crazy, but we did. And then as you build the agency, slowly but surely, you're building capacity, hiring people. There are many, many people in this area with this kind of utility-based expertise, power procurement expertise. We are an art of knowledge in this state. So I wouldn't worry about having adequate capacity for great people to serve as their staff. Right now, Marin County has 22 staff members. Sonoma has 9. The reason that Marin is so much larger is that, as you know, they're expanding out in Contra Costa and Napa. Any questions on governance or staffing at this point? Okay. Last but not least, there's a question about surplus revenues. So when the board gets together, once the staff and the professionals put together, as you all know, an annual budget, if the performance of the year is better than maybe is expected, you will have surplus revenues. So far, we have seen in general 3 ways that those surplus revenues are treated. The first of which is you can leverage those excess revenues with additional funding, whether it's through the CPC for energy efficiency, with private sector companies, with local power development. There are a number of different leverage points that we're seeing right now for new programs. And importantly, it's important to set a reserve requirement, primarily used for rate stabilization to make sure that you don't have these spikes or any issues with rates that would affect your opt-outs over time. So those are the ways that we've seen surplus revenues. There are other ways. Right now, there's some proposals on the table to provide payout to the local governments with excess revenues. Jury's out on that. That would be a policy decision that you would consider. It's a good governance issue, I think, as well. So here are the key elements. Before we move on, any questions structural at this point? Okay. Here are the general buckets, if you will, or categories that you guys are going to be working through over the next several months in terms of program planning and design. The first is local policy and statutory and regulatory requirements. It is not something that can be abdicated. It is something that we all have to understand as we go through this process, really understanding what the ongoing goals are for regulatory participation. Community engagement and marketing, already said, that's a critical piece. Nobody wants to be surprised. It is one of the more expensive pieces of this effort if you do it right. Got mailings and all kinds of things to reach the public over the next several months. CCA program design and agency formation. Good news is that that's getting easier because we now have 2 and now 3 down. There's 1 in LA under our belt. And so we've got some experience. We know what the pitfalls are. We know what works well. And generally, we're going to move down this path much quicker than in the past. You will need technical support. The county's hired Pacific Energy advisors. Why do you need them? You need them to help out with power procurement, some of the early contracting, rate design, load forecasting, load sizing, all that good stuff. You'll have a chance to meet with John and Kirby team, I think, at the next meeting. And they're going to take a deeper dive into all of that and explain really what their role is in all of this. Last, there is a financial component. Luckily, the county has stepped up to say they will sponsor, assuming all goes well, they will sponsor the upfront investment. And we'll move on to look at that. So that there is no out-of-pocket expense to any of the other jurisdictions participating in this program. No upfront cost.
Question.
Yes.
In the list that you provided, it does not list the customer service during the operation.
Correct. And so let me go back. Good point. These are very broad buckets. Most of this is focused on formation, but in truth, when you get to the operation stage, your budget is likely to include all of these things, where the customer service and call center and all that can go under the customer engagement and marketing, typically. But it's probable that your budget will follow this general outline in terms of services and departments. Thank you. So here's a big picture overview. Many of you have seen this already. I'll go quickly. We are in phase 1. Thank you for being here because you're a critical part of phase 1. That's just all the pre-planning and due diligence and getting organized and figuring this out. We'll talk a little bit about what we've done so far, but really the next things to do under phase 1 is to get to our technical study. The load data has been requested. Should be to us within the next week so that the group can get started and hopefully have that study done by August with all the numbers and 10-year forecasting and all that good stuff. Phase 2, slated to start in September, where we really roll our sleeves up and we start getting into the nitty-gritties of JPA formation, the ordinances, what kind of power supply do you guys want to look at? Do you want to have one offering? Do you want to have 2 options for customers? Do you want to have 3? Marin County has 3 now. They have a default product at 50%, a voluntary 100% product, which is what I'm under, and then they now have a local community-based solar that's 250 customers. That's a set price for 20 years. So then they now have 3 options for customers who are to choose from, or they can go out of PG. So there's a lot of optionality that this group will need to decide what do you want to do with that. You also will start the process of issuing RFPs for power supply. The really great news right now is that the market is super healthy, super strong, the lowest rates we've seen in a long time. So you guys are right on the money in terms of timing. And when Marin just did their most recent RFP process, they got 20 times the amount of power that they were requesting. So sometimes people say, is there going to be enough? Are we going to have enough power? Is there going to be enough renewable supply? What we are seeing in the marketplace is that there is tremendous response to the demand that's being created through this distributed local opportunity. And we heard last week in LA with our conference, a number of the independent power producers stepped up and said, we're looking forward to the governor increasing that RPS because they want to do more. They want to develop these clean power supplies. That's what the business they're in. So it's all looking very favorable for the foreseeable future. The last phase, which is really the final 5 to 6 months, is really now rolling out implementation. That's where you get your call center going for your customers. You've got your customer enrollment, your opt-out notifications, your staffing, you're moving the desks in and basically setting up shop and we're off to the races. And we think, and I believe this will be true given the pace we've been on, that by the end of 2016, you guys will be up and running potentially one of the larger CCA programs in the state. Questions?
Yeah, how many different providers are there?
available, yeah.
There are, for the large, what we call energy services providers. There are approximately 5. In truth, there are 30 or 40 of them registered in the state of California. And then there are several other independent power producers through which you can contract for, specific contract lengths and terms. One of the best practices we talk about is making sure that the CCE program has multiple power supply contracts and lengths of time, so that you're basically managing and layering on power supplies, and you never get yourself into an upside down position.
Well, I'm just curious because what I'm worried about is another one of those Enron sort of cases where there's a collusion going on and we get stuck with the bill.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I'm worried about another Enron situation where there's collusion that goes on behind and that we get stuck with it unknowingly.
All the more reason why you, in my view, public agency really makes a lot of sense. They're all very transparent. So, good comment, but I'm not seeing it. How long were you able to lock in rates, or is that something you're able to do with the RFP? You can if you want. That's a policy decision that the board will make. If you want to pay a premium, and you will pay a premium to lock in rates or guarantee rates, you can do that. Typically, what's been happening so far is that the CCAs are setting rates once a year. Typically, that's seen as a good practice. Utility lose their rates around as many as 5 times a year. They've got once a year versus 5 times a year. And that sort of allows you to move with the market a little bit rather than locking in. Because you do, like anything, you pay a premium, it's almost like a mortgage. You pay a premium to lock in that rate. Yes, sir.
What specifically do you count as renewable energy? Is any of it, like fossil fuel energy, linked with offsets, or is it all purely?
Okay, good question. I think you're going to renewable energy credits. Do you mind? Okay. What qualifies as California renewable energy? It's very specific. Wind, solar, geothermal, and small hydro. Small hydro is anything below 30 megawatts. 30? 20? 30. Everything else is considered a fossil fuel, including nuclear, even though nuclear generally is considered carbon neutral. So what you will see is that you'll hear this term later, like base load power. Base load power is what's run up and down the grid. It's called system power. Predominantly in the state of California, that's natural gas. And so generally, you may have a combination, depending on what this group decides, of California qualified renewables and whatever percentage you choose, and that's offset by system power, because ultimately you have to get to 100% and actually 115% for resource adequacy requirements.
The system power is predominantly natural gas in the state of California?
Yes. In other parts of the country, it's predominantly coal, so, I just wish I could say we're doing a little bit, but it's predominantly natural gas.
And I guess I was under the impression that I was under the impression that the fossil fuel in California, or actually maybe this is just PG&E's service territory, was somewhere around 40%. 57% was non-greenhouse gas, big hydro, nuclear, and solar.
That may well be PG&E's portfolio. And so what I'm talking about is just sort of the reservoir of power that fills the gaps between what would be California qualified renewable and the rest of it to achieve your 100 or 115% resource requirements. So when you may be talking about, I might look at a reader next time, if you could. I want to redirect and go to the second part of your question. Let me see if I get this right. I think where you were starting to go was this issue about renewable energy credits. Is that fair?
Probably.
Okay. Let's just get that description out on the table. I'm not going to cover it all tonight, but let's try to just get a basic understanding because it's a contentious issue. And the very good news is that for unbundled renewable energy credits, they're being phased out in California. So what are they? There should be a little briefing in your binder about what they are. But renewable energy credits are a market-based tool that was designed by the U.S. EPA in the, I think it was early 1990s, as a way to subsidize, if you will, the development of new renewable power resources, even if they were not in the next area based on where you want to buy it. So it's not, it's not unlike the sort of carbon credits of today, but the renewable energy credit is the thing that confers the environmental attributes of that electron power. So you get for every 1 megawatt hour of power, 1 REC is generated. If you buy the power, the bundled power with the REC, that's called a bundled REC. So the REC, piece of paper, that's all, there's this whole accounting thing that goes on and all that, they trace them. It stays with the megawatt hour, and you buy that in total. There's also an option to split the two, so that as a buyer, you can purchase just the REC, but you still get to claim the environmental attributes of that piece of paper. This is extremely common all over the rest of the United States. And people are screaming about it because you have communities claiming we're 100% clean power, when in truth, they purchase a lot of unbundled RECs that are less expensive than the bundled REC because it doesn't come with power. They're claiming it because legally they can, but then what they actually bought to put on the grid is some version of system power. So you can see why people get upset about this. Here's what's happening in the state of California. There are compliance requirements under the state renewable portfolio standard. 3 buckets, all going down in order of value. The 3rd bucket is unbundled RECs. You are permitted to get credit on unbundled RECs, but they're being phased out over the next several years, I want to say 10 years, something like that, so that the amount of compliance credit you get is fraction. So, the goal statements, you will see that the county right now is saying their aim is to minimize the use of unbundled RECs. Maybe not use them at all, but that's a policy decision that you all will have to make. But that's a little background on what they are, and I think the market's going to take care of it for us. But does that answer your question, sir, in terms of basic? Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed you've changed the terminology from CCA to CCE and framework descriptive. So can you talk about why that is? Are there any other advantages to having a CCE as opposed to a CCA?
Yes, so thank you, and I just want to apologize straight up for using the term CCA. It's just kind of deep through the brain, so I apologize for that. The statutory terminology is community choice aggregation. It's a terrible term. So the word aggregation makes people run the other way. And so now communities have decided, for the purpose of really just more user-friendly description, to call community choice of energy, CCE, on all of basic values, including San But they are interchangeable. I use them interchangeably. I don't need to, but it's just Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, sir.
One question. Yeah, one question. And it may be coming further in the program, so you could postpone it. But suppose we purchase a renewable power source, let us say solar. And suppose the CCE buys a particular block of that power for a certain time. Now, given that it's solar, it's variable in terms of how much they can generate themselves. So is it the responsibility of the supplier to make up for the variability, or is it the CCE which has to have its own backup to that? Or does it change?
So, I'm going to take a crack at this and said if I did anything wrong. Send this like our total expert on all the supply stuff. The basic answer is this.
Sean, can you repeat the question?
Oh, so as I understand it, the question really has to do with the intermittency of certain renewable power supply, like solar, sunshine in the daytime. What do you do about the nighttime? So until
service provider would carry out the scheduling functions with the ISO. So that's typically what Constellation Energy or Shell Energy would do on behalf of the CCE program.
Does that answer it?
I couldn't hear all the answers because
You didn't hear it?
No.
Okay, so the energy services provider that this group would negotiate with, whether it's Constellation, Direct Energy, Shell Energy, Energy, there's, like I said, there's about 5 big ones. They handle all of that for you, and they layer in all of those resources based on what this group decides they want to do for the percentage of it. And then the California Independent System Operator, they're the tops of the grid. They handle the grid in the state of California. They are responsible for making sure that that power is scheduled, that it's all moving around the way that it's supposed to. So they take care of that and all monitor. Yes, sir.
So, today, if residential customers or commercial customers put solar photovoltaic up, basically they deliver the power to the grid and they lose any power in excess of what that customer uses. With the CCE, I understand that there's a greatly increased opportunity for decentralized generation. The whole concept of locally developed renewables is a great focus, and I understand that's part of this program. Does it create an opportunity for those customers with the ability to generate excess solar power that is currently just being delivered into the grid without any benefit?
Yes.
Does the CCE have an opportunity there?
This one has. Yes. I mean, this, again, is a policy, this program, a policy choice that you make. It's called net engineering. And currently, both the grid and Sonoma programs are running the net engineering programs that are tremendously more favorable than PG&E's net metering.
We think this works. It's much more favorable than PG&E's program because for 2 reasons. One, they're offering a payout for your excess power at retail, not wholesale. That's almost double the price. And they are allowing you to either roll over the excess credit that you generate or cut a check and pay you for that excess power. Right now with PG&E at the end of the year, there's a true up. Anything that's extra goes out into the grid and sorry, you're out of luck. It is a little bit like cell phones and all those years ago when people were screaming about their rollover hours and that finally got fixed. This is a little bit analogous. Very important to know that if you are already generating solar on your rooftop, you can be rolled into the program, no problem, or put solar on and become part of the problem. That's a pretty seamless program.
Are we okay, Supervisor Pine?
We have time for questions. It's important.
I have 2 more things to...
Yeah, but let's keep taking the questions. It's helpful. You have a mic now.
So this is related to the solar panel issue. So the materials state that then it would be an opt-out or an opt-out program as well. So if you have solar panels on your roof and the CCE is in place, then those customers would then automatically
Right.
and the rates would hopefully be more competitive than PG&E's rates. So what would happen is now there's a lot of customers putting their home storage batteries and they're generating power and using it, storing it and using it. How has that seems to be affecting the CCE?
It's a great question, and it is something that we should, I'll answer it a little bit, and then John and Kirby next week can answer that more specifically, because they do a lot of the power design and procurement design for Marin and Sonoma. But basically, you leave yourself some open position in your portfolio, both so that you can be opportunistic in terms of the types of power you buy and be opportunistic on the market for good deals, but also be able to expand or contract over time as your demand goes down. That's one of the benefits of having a local program is that you can really watch that in real time. You know how many customers you have that are net energy metering customers and can extract that over time. So too with energy efficiency and demand response programs.
I'm one of the people who grew up trusting government, and now that I'm on the other side, people are relying on me. So I would like to request that you discuss a little bit about the auditing program, how you're going to audit these companies, how often you do it, what type of audit it's going to be, so the ratepayers have a good feeling about how these rates are set.
Great question. I don't exactly know what Sonoma is doing beyond financial auditing. I do know that both programs have annual financial audits by a third party. All of the power supply that's put onto the grid is audited through the California ISO. There are other third-party auditing companies. Both Marin and Sonoma work through Noble. There are several other companies that basically are handling in an independent way the transaction from ratepayer revenue that comes into PG&E and then comes to the CCA. There's a third-party audit that happens at that point in time. So there are a number of places along the flow of funds and activities in terms of power procurement and reporting that are audited along the way. And again, this would be a deeper dive for John and Kirby to do it because they're the ones that typically have set that up.
John, why don't you go ahead and move
All right, moving along. Thank you for indulging me. Hopefully it's useful. This is just a quick overview of what the proposed budget is for the county. The county we're moving in phases. So far they've authorized funding for the first tranche, $300,000. Phase 2 is scheduled to come in at $800,000. Very possible that that's going to be less. We are working on that. And then the last at $400,000. A lot of that is customer engagement, outreach, mailings, all that kind of stuff you have to do. With the $200,000 contingency. So that's what the proposed startup budget is. Important to note, it is all repayable. Both Marin and Sonoma repaid that startup capital within 1 year of launch. That is what is remarkable about the revenue generation of this program. It is not de minimis. Just really quick, people say, how's it going? These are the financials of Marin and Sonoma. Marin's 15-16 budget, serving 165,000 customers, so they're pretty small, is $129 million in revenue per year. In Sonoma, scheduled to be $130 million in revenue this coming year. They're just serving the county. Sonoma is scheduled to have $16 million in reserves this coming year. Why is that? That's because they had a much lower than expected opt-out rate. They have more customers paying into it. And they got a great deal on their power supply contract. Marin's projected revenue is $4.5 million. They have spent actually a fair amount of their excess revenues in local programs. And so they've made some different policy choices. We think that Sonoma will follow suit, but they've only been around for about a year, so they've got some catching up to do. Accomplishments thus far, we've covered a lot of this. Focused outreach to all 20 cities. You're here, thank you. The technical study will start in a couple of weeks. Robust community engagement, our meeting now. The idea is to return to the Board of Supervisors in early September once the technical study is complete and we know what the bottom line is. For a review of this body, I imagine we'll be reviewing that before then, but to ask to move on to phase 2 and to get the second tranche of money. So here's the activities through the summer. Tech study is front and center. What does that do? It looks at your load, the size of the load, and the demand forecast for off into about a 10-year period. Can your program be price competitive? Can you rapidly reduce gas reductions? Can you get the economic development benefits with local power, local build, that sort of thing? They will project rates 10 years out. Up to you whether you choose to guarantee those rates. You don't necessarily think you should because you paid a premium for that. And then projected economic development impacts in terms of jobs creation. You will evaluate your program options, advisory committees. The next few months really is just getting grounded and educated. There's going to be lots of great learning about energy and how it works around the state. And then continued local government and community outreach. So I will conclude my remarks. Thanks for letting me go long, and are there other questions?
We have a couple of questions. Let me just take a second though and recognize Ann Schneider, who wanted to make a comment. Ann, if you want to come up and grab the mic, and then we can take a few more questions before we move to the issue of the name of our new agency.
Hi, my name is Ann Schneider. I am the former chair and current member of the Sierra Club's National Zero Waste Committee. And my comment relates to when staff talk about the energy mix. There are other forms of energy mix in addition to what she mentioned in the California renewables, and they come from the solid waste sector. And my reason for being here is some of the energy from garbage is good and some of it is bad. And real quickly, the new anaerobic digestion that Brisbane, Millbrae, South City have, that's a good, it's not burning it. But we are generally within the environmental community against burning garbage as energy, creates a bunch of pollutants, and there's no net energy gain. And the trickier one, which was in the CCA for Sonoma or Marin, I can't remember which mix, is landfill gas to energy. And I know this sounds counterintuitive, but when you take a landfill and you add water so that you can get more methane to get a high enough concentration to make it a fuel, you actually increase the amount of fugitive emissions. And you're actually increasing methane release faster and in a greater quantity, and it's much more dangerous than CO2. So we are adamantly against landfill gas. I'm happy to go into more detail. The other one to remember is fats, oils, and greases, which a lot of sewage treatment plants do. That's a good. So some are good, some are bad. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have, I think, 5, maybe up to 10 minutes to take a couple more questions. There are a lot of hands going up, so it's a very. I'm sorry. Then we'll
It's on. I wanted to ask a question about governance. So we have to submit an implementation plan to the CPUC. Once that is approved, does the CPUC have any ongoing authority? Is there any legal relationship with the CPUC? Do they have authority over rates or any other kind of regulatory relationship? And does that plan, do we need a new plan every 5-10 years, or is it one plan and then you're done forever?
The only time you need to resubmit an implementation plan is if the program expands and takes on new load. So the relationship with the CPUC is ongoing. They have no regulatory oversight over the rates that, or the policies or the programs or any of the stuff that the CCE wants to do. They stay involved because they have oversight over the utility, and we're partnered with the utility. So they get involved in some of the regulatory registrations, the resource adequacy, long-term procurement planning, all the really mundane, boring stuff that every CCE has to do. But they're not as light on regulation as they are with the full municipal utility. It's a hybrid.
We had a good question at the end of the table.
Hi, I had a question about rate plans. I noticed that PG&E has several special rate plans for low-income consumers and families that meet different standards. How's that handled in the existing CCEs?
All those rate plans remain in place. So the customer care rates, all that sort of thing, all of those different tariffs and plans do not change. In fact, in Sonoma, right now, the care customers are seeing a 10 to 14% reduction on their electricity bills over what PG&E is able to pay. So you can actually do a little bit better for some of the various programs they've got. The other thing that's important to note is that for many cities, you are paid a franchise fee from the utility. That doesn't go away either. That's on the transmission and distribution side of the bill. None of that changes with that relationship.
With some of the, you've got energy savings and you've got perhaps the cost goes down, but what are some of the known risks that now there are Sonoma? I mean, this all sounds great, but there's got to be some things that are risks. Could you tell us a couple of those?
Sure. The great news is that many of the risks have been mitigated through the first 3 experiences. But I would say the risks are as follows. There's always going to be market risk. So the volatility of the market and making sure that your power supply is matched up to your demand and that you're doing a good job with your contracting and getting the best pricing and all of that. So you've got opt-out risk. If the rates somehow fluctuate in a way that's not good for your customers, they're out of here. So that's why, you got to hire the best and also have a rate stabilization fund. So that's market risk. Regulatory risk is ongoing. No matter what kind of program you do, regulatory risk exists because they're relatively new at this. And so we're constantly backing the CPUC to make sure that they are enacting programs and policies that keep it fair for CCE programs to exist and be able to compete, because we really are competing with the utility. And the third really is legislative risk. We did have a big bill last year, AB 2145, that we beat back, that sought to change the program into an opt-in. You change this program to an opt-in, it sounds fine, but across the country, when that's been tried, the penetration rate is about 3%. You can't reach scale, and your program can't go because there's no economics. Those are the three buckets.
Maybe we can take one more from someone who has that question. And Sean lives in Marin, but she'll stay a little late, I think, to take some questions afterwards. So we'll take the question at the end, and then we'll move to our next agenda item.
Again, I'm Kirsten Schmidt of the Pacifica Climate Committee, and appreciated the request that we mention things that our constituents might be interested in hearing about. So I'd like to put in a request to staff, especially considering that we're having a meeting with the consultants at our next meeting, that we delve a little bit more deeply into the county's greenhouse gas emissions goal, reduction goals, as well as some of the major cities, and how this program would serve those goals, especially at some of the different targets that have been set. The consultant is looking at a 35% renewable goal. What would happen with our greenhouse gas reduction goals if we looked at 50%, if we looked at 100%? At various levels of those goals could be, and what the impacts on our greenhouse gas emissions and climate action goals would be for that. It'd be wonderful to have a report from staff on that.
Thanks for that suggestion. That's something we definitely incorporate. So, Sean, thank you for sharing so much information. You know, there's so much to learn here. I still feel relatively low on the learning curve, despite being at this for a couple of months. And a really important part of these next couple of months is really for all of us to get educated. And we're going to do our best at these meetings, particularly the next couple of meetings, to provide a lot of basic knowledge about how energy market works, what are these RECs, how these other models structured. So as we go into the fall, we have the technical study in hand, and we'll all have some grounding. So all good questions tonight, and these first two meetings are really going to get me focused on trying to get us all up to speed. So let's go ahead and move to our next item concerning the branding.
Hello, hi, I'm Ray Quigley, and I'm with Circle Point. We are a communications company. We've been around for 27 years and located here in the Bay Area. I'm the creative director there, and we specialize in helping public agencies achieve their communication goals. We have been very excited to help with this program. We've been working with the Office of Sustainability to begin the branding process. And the first step was doing some initial research, and from that we developed a number of naming options. And you'll see those on the survey that we included. And there's a sheet at the back of your binder, and for those that don't have a binder, there's one here at the sign-in table. And here you'll see the naming options: Peninsula Clean Energy, Peninsula Community Energy, Peninsula Power, Peninsula Clean Power. So it should be just loose at the back of your binder. And so you can just vote on the name option that you like the best and why. We also included a number of questions just to get behind the benefits and the qualities about the program that mean the most to you. And those answers will help inform the branding process. And I'll also just, so if you can give me those surveys, I'll collect them at the end of the night here. And that will help inform the next step of our process. Yes?
Can we suggest other names?
You're welcome to, yes.
It's a big peninsula. There's many other places on the peninsula that we can give you choice. It seems like that's a misnomer for San Mateo County.
Yeah, so we looked at other options with San Mateo County, and we arrived at Peninsula because it seemed to encapsulate all the cities, and would have the opportunity for expansion beyond just the county if needed. And also, so it wouldn't be confused with the city of San Mateo. So you're welcome to write in additional ideas if you have them. Thank you. And this is also just a sneak peek at the splash page that we've developed. We're going to get this up pretty quickly as soon as we have the name set. And essentially what this is just a one-page website, and it gives an indication about what CCE is, tells a story. There's an infographic here, defines it broadly, lets people sort of engage with what the benefits are, and provides a nice introduction to the program here and initial opportunities to get involved. So this is just a mock-up. Once the naming is finalized, we will get this up there so that we have a place to point people to during this initial outreach phase. And then once the branding is finalized, we'll develop a full multi-page robust website. And so in addition to this information, the full website will have FAQs, a calendar of events, sign-up form, project timeline, a number of interactive materials and information about the program here, but also CCE in general. So in addition to that, this robust website, we're also going to produce a number of outreach materials, including fact sheets and flyers, PowerPoint templates, and one thing that we're planning on developing is a community guide to the technical study. We've had success doing this for general plans and technical studies before environmental documents. And essentially what it is a multi-page brochure that educates about the content of a more technical document and makes it engaging and easy to digest for the general public. So those are the materials that we're planning to develop. And thank you so much for your input today on the naming and the benefits there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, on the naming question, we have some time tonight, and I would really like to get people's comments. You might want to elaborate on your comment that this was the wrong way to go, and we have time here to kind of get some ideas on the table or some reactions to these things. So the floor is open. Maybe
Well, I'm not inalterably opposed to Peninsula in the title, but it seems to me, I'm very familiar with the people, the cities in San Mateo County are working on community choice right now. San Francisco is working on their move on the Peninsula. It could be a little confusing to people. Now, I understand that there maybe is a possibility to expand and include some of the other cities, although I think that's kind of unlikely, actually, since they're doing pretty well within Santa Clara County. Something that has the name San Mateo County, or just San Mateo, is a fairly interesting option as well.
Well, I feel a little left out living on the coast. Where Peninsula, generally people think of it over here on this side and not us over on the coast side. I'd be okay with San Mateo County.
Personally, I love clean energy, and I'm all about reducing our carbon emissions, but I actually think community might be more approachable and embracing, kind of might create a bigger tent than clean, because not everybody cares about clean. So anyway, that was just the point, choosing clean versus community.
Get some other thoughts on this. Wayne?
Well, I thought the same thing, but my thing was I think a lot of people aren't as educated and probably think that we're producing the power. I don't want to give them the impression that this community is producing all the power.
So I'll make a comment. I mean, I am a very strong advocate for renewable energy generation, and there are lots of things that in our community we're doing, like trying to build a net positive civic center. So we're very focused on it. position and analysis that I have. Because of that, I don't want people that, don't have a beginning positive attitude toward renewable energy because they're afraid that it's too expensive, for example, to be alienated by the program. I want to be as encompassing as we possibly can be. And because of that, I think the word community is a little more broad and that it will sweep more of our residents into supporting the concept. I mean, of course, ultimately they have to affirmatively opt out, so they have to affirmatively leave it, but we want to minimize how many people will do that. And therefore, I think that trying to be as broad in terms of pulling people in as we can is to our advantage. And a name, after all, it's not exactly a policy. But it is something that people look at right away. And I am concerned that so I guess I'm saying I support the idea of community over the word clean, because I'm concerned that there are some people that will turn away because they will make prejudgments on the use of the word clean.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Marina coming from Montera. The few of us who live on the coastline can't really identify with Peninsula, except maybe it's a place to come and work and shop. But beyond that, it's not much. But I like community because it is inclusive. And as a special district representative, we are an integral part of every community. I also like, to throw out a different word, renewable. To your point earlier, I would like to see, and one of the reasons I'm here, is to help encourage decentralized energy. Our teeny water and sewer district does have a small solar generation facility on it, and it actually works quite well, even in the fog. And so I'd like to see this, I'd like to be more inclusive, and so I would see community renewable, and then I'm struggling with the word energy, or the other word that popped up is resources. Because it may be that there are other potentials here, and I don't know what they are right now, I'm not that smart, but I'd like to see it more inclusive and expansive.
I think there's a hand here, too.
Yeah, I would like to just support what the previous two speakers said. I like Peninsula Community Energy because it has the word community in it, which connotes that this is a community-based effort with community benefits and community management.
Thank you. I never see you up through my map. Then we'll get.
I'll just throw in a vote for clean. And the argument, I think, the customer is going to receive a PG&E bill. And I think in the example that's shown in some of the presentation materials, they didn't even show the name, or they showed an acronym for Marin. It's like MCE, they don't show it. So essentially, probably if you pulled a lot of people in Marin, they would say, I get my power from PG&E, or at least that's my PG&E bill. It seems to me the focus is to try to reduce the opt-out rate. And most members of the community will become aware of this when they receive these 4 opt-out messages. And so for me, the difference between community and clean explains why we're doing it. It says we're changing where your power is coming from because we want to make it cleaner. Do you want to keep doing that, or do you want to opt out? If we say community, you're essentially saying I worry that you're going to confuse people because it's PG&E versus community. Do you trust PG&E to deliver your electricity, or do you trust kind of your local government? And there's not clear as a positive benefit of why we're doing this. PG&E seems to work fine, the lights turn on. So I think in terms of trying to reduce the opt-out rate, go with a clear message of why we're doing it.
Supervisor?
Do you have a comment, Sean?
Is that right?
Go ahead.
To your comments, sir, I think it's worth noting now that the reason that MCE is listed as an acronym on the bill is that, and it's an interesting point, they, at this point, I think probably regret calling themselves Marin Clean Energy because they now have communities in Napa and Contra Costa. So they changed their name to be officially MCE Clean Energy. It just got them into a little bit of a fix. And so it's just something to remember in terms of whether you identify as San Mateo County or whatever your decisions are. Just think about it in terms of the future. The other thing not to forget is that you do have a tagline that you can use on your logo. So all of these elements can be brought together in one visual image, even if it's not in the name.
Stacy, yes, no?
So maybe we should just go with Northern California Clean Energy. Just a question on the choices here. Is it Peninsular Power? Is that meant to be peninsular and not peninsula?
No, the R is extra.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Because that sounds weird.
We won't do that.
Good catch. Yes.
I'm thinking of another county-wide and city-involving agency that has a really neat name, and that's SamTrans. And I really feel that San Mateo County is and the cities together should be in the name, and whatever you call it, clean energy or community energy, but could you try to work the SAM in there?
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to make a quick comment that, as I was looking through the name, I immediately go to see what are the initials in it. And I really like, it's like Clean Power. And I went, oh, PCP? That's not it. So whatever is chosen, we need to make sure that the initials are good, are positive, and not.
You get the special prize because that has come across our radar.
Very good point.
All right, this is really helpful. I mean, we're going to have to probably we have to see what the little straw poll shows, and we're going to come back to have more discussion and maybe a little broader set of the poll.
And if people do want to indicate on their survey if they prefer to say San Mateo County, if you want to indicate that at the top, you can use that information as well.
Yeah, that's the writing choice. Yes.
I have a question. In considering this, has the focus been entirely San Mateo County? I mean, I know I got a question from somebody in Palo Alto, and I know that Santa Clara is looking at something, but have you guys been totally focused on San Mateo, or might there be cities that would join us?
Our focus has been on in San Mateo and getting our 20 cities and getting our community, here in this room, which we're so pleased about tonight. But we're well aware of some of the initiatives in Santa Clara. We received a call on that. We thought it would be best to keep our effort focused here, the first step. But we've seen what happened in Marin, where all of a sudden they picked up allies or partners outside of their boundaries. So that was one thinking behind something like Peninsula, is that it would be easier to do that. But that's nowhere near, that's nowhere on the real radar, at least as things stand currently.
One question on the questionnaire here. On question 4, what appeals to you most? Is your intent there that we rank these 1, 2, 3, 4? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for your input. I appreciate it, and we look forward to reading the responses. So I'll collect them after this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'd like to take a moment now and talk about ideas for future agenda items. I think Jim is going to lead us through this, because as I was trying to emphasize earlier, it's really important that we provide you the information that you need, and that we get well grounded in this big new world of energy. So, Jim, is that where we're at now? Is this going to the future agenda, or did I skip over something?
Yeah, we're here at the suggestions for future meeting presentations, and so we have 3 ideas so far that we would be coming back to you on. The first one is relative to one of the items that Sean had mentioned in your presentation about an Energy 101. And we would have our technical consultant come in and really speak to that in regards to, how energy is delivered, how it's distributed, the California energy policy, and kind of focus around this, kind of the basics about energy, really kind of give that foundation. The second idea, too, would be to have a Q&A opportunity with representatives from Sonoma and Marin. So they could come in here, give you a chance to, over the course of this next month, think of some questions, and then we could have them for a Q&A session. And then the third idea is really to talk about what is the specific content in a technical study and really drill down into that document. So we made it part of our RFP that we sent out. We specifically identified the areas that we wanted them to address. And I think it's time to share that with you so that you can understand it, and then also have this dialogue with our consultant. So those are 3 ideas, and then also we'll be coming back here with the polling on the name, so we can have some additional dialogue around that. So those are some ideas. So if there's anything else.
Yes. This day and age, it'd be great if we had like a short YouTube that we can send links to our constituents. If people ask us questions about community choice, we can just send them to a FAQ site or a quick little explanation of what it is. That'd be great.
Right. Yeah, we've been building a Q&A document, and as we build our website, that'll be some opportunities here to get that up and running and provide that link possibility. It's in the binder.
But we're going to make some real investments in that website to make it easy to navigate and make all this information there. But if you want deep dive, it's there. But if you want a 30-second overview, it'll be there too. So give us your input on that site as we develop it. Now, another issue that I think we'll want to address as we move forward is there's a private company that has emerged. Some of you may have heard of this, called California Clean Power. And they are basically saying, we'll get into this community choice energy business. It's a private entity. And we'll partner with cities and help them implement a community choice energy program. We'll take a profit for that work. But they have, kind of recently come on the scene, and they've talked to a couple cities in our county they've spoken with, and they're talking to some counties in other parts of the state. So in the future, we'll want to talk a little bit about how that compares and contrasts with our approach. So that'll be something you all want to get some grounding in. We have Kelly Kessler going to come.
So, David, one of the things that raises is what, I don't know. But thank you. Yeah, you are. Well, okay. One of the things that concerns me about even this, thank you, Dave, that concerns me a little about the community choice, even just this survey, it's all warm and fuzzy, and there's no opportunity in this document to express the concerns that one might have. Marina started to raise the issue about, what are the possible risks? What are the downside things that may have occurred or might occur? What happens when there's a private entity? If you're so concerned about having public input and you have another private entity that's also in it for the profit, how does that shake out? So I just want to make sure that as we move forward, as Wayne said and other people have said, that there's opportunities for people to ask questions and challenge and actually have an opportunity to tease out those things that might be unintended consequences, so that it isn't just a matter of, kumbaya, that we really do need to look at some of the other aspects of the way that this rolls out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the purpose of this forum, is to get issues on the table and address them, which we plan to do. So we can look forward to that. Yes, Leanne.
I very much like the third proposal of diving into the technical study and maybe prefacing that with a discussion of greenhouse gas reduction goals. Why are we doing this in the first place?
Other thoughts?
Shelley reminded me that we needed a kumbaya moment. I thought we would be remiss if we didn't mention this. We're all here tonight because you've organized this. We're all here tonight supporting this idea and moving this forward. We're on a very aggressive timeline, and it's because of the leadership of some very important people at the county. I want to thank Carol and I want to thank Dave Pond. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm a very strong environmentalist who's also concerned about, as many of us are, economic development. And I'd like to have a conversation, see what we can learn from Marin and Sonoma and other places, how we can structure this community choice program so that it really brings a lot of new economic development and good paying jobs to San Mateo County.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. So let's see. I think we've had a fairly full evening here. We had a couple other items potentially going to, but I would propose we leave those for another day. If anyone had any closing thoughts or comments? We do have a card or two, and I see my friend right ahead here raising his hand. So, Richard, you want to grab the mic, and then Chelsea from San Mateo has a comment as well.
This is something I'm very interested in for our home use, but there are some details about the way we receive our power now. For instance, there's a concept that PG&E doesn't allow anymore, but an awful lot of the users have. It's called time of use, where consumers pay for a separate meter. It works quite well for most people who work because most of their power is used off-peak that way. I want to make sure that we include those kinds of things in any community choice energy. The lowering of prices for the elderly and disabled because they usually require more heat because we have a large number of homes on the peninsula. They're all electric and a lot of people bought those because of fear of earthquake fires.
My question has to do with your comment about California clean energy and their potential impact. And I know there are some startups. One is called Home Connect that is doing some sort of energy pooling that seems to resemble this, in which they are allowing people to either donate the money that is accumulated or to an entity, for instance, or to a school, or they're allowed to get a check back for that money. So just to explore the impact of that as well is my request.
Yeah, that company is called, once again, Home
Connect, OHM Connect.
All right. Well, once again, we really appreciate your participation tonight, your willingness to serve on this advisory committee. I mean, we're embarking on something very ambitious. There's a lot of detail here. There's a lot of devil in the detail, as we say, of course. We need your thoughts and contributions as we go forward. So, again, thank you. Very grateful for your help and input. Okay.